الصالحين سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم سبحانك لا فهم لنا إلا ما فهمتنا إنك أنت الجواد الكريم قل رب زدني علما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون. ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون. صدق الله مولانا العظيم. Allahu Akbar. So previously we've been hearing throughout this surah, Surah Al-Baqarah, the various sacrifices of the previous people, the previous ummats, sacrifice of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, and earlier the sacrifices of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam and his son and his wife. And so the nature of this worldly life is a life of trial and tribulation. Small trials and tribulations, large trials and tribulations. And among the large trials and tribulations is the conflicts that takes place between the people of Iman and the people of Kufr. The people who believe in the system of life which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created man for, and those who deny it. So that's the nature of this world. It started with Adam alayhi salam and the creation of Satan. The two of them, from the very beginning, from day one, there was a conflict. That conflict will continue until the day of Qiyamah. So those engaged in such type of conflicts, and any type of difficulty that we're going to face. So, as the previous ayat has mentioned, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ, patience, salat, connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the prescription in all cases. So in this ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ يُقْتَلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٍ. So those who give the ultimate sacrifice, the sacrifice of their very lives for the sake of deen, for the cause of the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So their death, don't say that they are actually dead in the normal sense. Yes, physically they have died. We can say they have been killed, they have been martyred. So they are dead physically, but they're not dead spiritually. And so don't say that they're dead. They are actually alive. وَلَكِنْ لَا تَشْعُرُونَ. But you don't understand that. You cannot comprehend that. So their life is in the life of barzakh, as we say. The life which is the second transition after this worldly life. The life of barzakh, which is a second transition, and then ultimately after Qiyamah, the final transition, which would be the eternal felicity or eternal damnation in paradise or Jahannam. So their souls, it's mentioned also in hadith, that everyone else has to wait to go to paradise. The souls of the shuhada, they are within the birds. It's mentioned in hadith, these green type of birds, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what type of bird that would be, flying about in paradise. So they are enjoying, the tour of the paradise even before entering, even before everyone else enters. So obviously, the life after death, in waiting for Qiyamah, لَهُمْ دَرَجَاتٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ. So everyone has his own status and position according to what he has been doing and according to the tawfiq that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. So shuhada will be having a very high status, not as high as Anbiya alayhimu salatu wasalam, but just beneath them. مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ. So all of these categories are going to be having very high status. The martyr himself will be having an extremely high status. And also, it's also mentioned in hadith, and it's been seen it's been witnessed physically, that the bodies of the martyrs are not eaten by the earth. Allahu Akbar. And this has been witnessed right up to this very day. And so does that mean that they will never decompose, or the decomposure takes much more time than usually it takes? So probably both cases do take place. And as we know also that the martyr, before the first drop of blood falls on the ground, all of his sins are forgiven. So it's a very high position. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all tawfiq and make us among the martyrs as well. Now, martyrs also are of three different categories. So one is what we call the martyr of this world and the next. Another is a martyr of the next world, and another is a martyr of this world only. So that martyr, which is a martyr, a shaheed, in this world and the next, is that person who has actually died in the conflict and without being able to benefit from any what we call marafiq al-hayat, eating or drinking or having any benefit or facility. He died on the spot, in the battlefield, in that position. And that person also had the intention, and he had his connection, and he was pure in his intention, only to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is a person who is a shaheed in this world and the next, meaning that that person will not be given a ritual bath. He will be buried as he is. And then, as we said, he had an intention to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only, so he will be considered a martyr in the akhirat as well, and be given all of those, blessings and benefits and high status that martyrs are given. Then we have a shaheed who is a shaheed in this world only. The person who actually apparently died in the battlefield, but his intention was otherwise, for the sake of name or fame or whatever may be the case. So the rights of the shaheed in this world will be given to him. He won't be given a ghusl. He'll be buried in that condition. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us all from such a fate. So he will not be considered a shaheed in the hereafter. As a matter of fact, it's mentioned in hadith that the judgment and the throwing into the hellfire will be started by three individuals, one of them being a shaheed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked, what did you do? What are the favors I gave you? He said, I fought in your path. He said, you're telling a lie. You fought, so it would be said that I'm so-and-so and I'm such and such and I'm a brave man. It was said, that's all you get. Then we have another category, which is a very huge category, and that is what we call shuhada al-akhirah. So Nabi ﷺ has mentioned that so many categories of people actually are considered shaheed, even though they didn't die in the battlefield. The person who dies from stomach disorder is a shaheed. The person who falls down from a high place is shaheed. The fellow who dies, who drowns, is a shaheed. And so many different, a person who was murdered, is a shaheed. And so many, in other words, just about any unnatural death would give the person of iman the position of shaheed in akhirah. So that person will be given a regular burial, but in the hereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him the muamala of a shaheed. So, having mentioned that part, so we will also now talk about the various types of trials and tribulations. وَنَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ إِلَى آخِرِ. Tomorrow and perhaps day after tomorrow, بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ ta'ala, as much time as it takes. وبالله التوفيق وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. Keep in mind that today is Jummah, so Jummah Surah Kaf, 10 days of Nur, 7 days and 3 days extra. So Surah Kaf, and it's also protection from Dajjal, much salawat on Rasul alayhi salatu wassalam, sadaqah, khairat of every type, and don't forget that between Asr and Maghrib, that special waqt of dua. So at least take out a few minutes to make dua for yourselves, your families, the community, for the entirety of the humanity. وَبِاللَّهِ التَّوْفِيقُ وَالسَّلَامُ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَةُ اللَّهِ وَبَرَكَاتُهُ.